I'm responding to my friend because most of the people that I know that don't like Calvinism, I don't agree with Calvinism, but my friend is a Calvinist, so I have to be nice because he's actually my friend. See, doesn't that suck? I can't just be a jerk. Okay, so John 6 and John 12. So, by the way, I loved what I heard when he said the things I said, that I like to say. I have to admit it. I am not going to be much help to you if you believe in once saved, always saved, and you're not a Calvinist. I think the only respectable position, even though I still disagree with it, that can assert that sort of doctrine is Calvinist because it's consistent. In other words, and some Arminians, I guess you can throw in there because they're basically Calvinists. No, I'm just kidding. But in a way, they are like Calvinists. It's very pious. Well, let's hear some of what he has to say.
Respectable position. I say that with respect to the people who give it. Perspective says those given in 37 are not the same as those drawn in 44, where he says, no man can come to me except the Father which sent me draws him. Well, if you're drawing somebody in the same sense that one draws a fish out of the water, and you're drawing him to the Son, and you're saying those who he draws, I will raise up on the last day, then it stands to reason, first off, that, like I just said, tautology here, that those who are drawn will be raised up on the last day, and also that those who are drawn are the same as those who are given. Why do we know this? Because in both instances, he is saying, I'm going to raise those ones up from the dead. No man can come to me unless they're drawn. I'm going to raise him up from the dead. No man can come to me unless the Father.
Okay, so I think the Calvinists is, I see where they're coming from with it's like a chain of events that are efficacious apparently, and I think you can read it that way. I would just say I don't think it's necessary that we say no one. I think so let me put it this way: no one can come. There's only one. In other words, there's only one way to the Father. That's like the consistent theme throughout all of scriptures. I think the greater context of the way of salvation, and this kind of speaks to all the texts that people read in a Calvinistic way. That is, what he's really arguing is that he is the only way, and he is the way that the Father gave. It's not about whether, it's not like God is, I know he says all that the Father has given me. He's accrediting everything to his Father, not dishonestly or anything, but that ultimately he's saying he is the way. The ones the Father, everything he has been given to him by the Father. Everything is from the Father. So I'm going to say the Father is actually drawing everyone, but he accredits everything to the Father, but it's still true that it's through him, by him. So I don't think it's like this external thing that the Father's giving him. The Father gives him those that are his through himself, through his teaching, through his life. And so when he says, no one can come to the Father, it's more like should be taken like, all that the Father has given me, no one can come to me unless the Father draws him. He is the drawing. He is the way that the Father is drawing them. And the ones that he's been given that actually respond to him are the ones being drawn, and that's of the Father. And so he's really saying, I'm the only way that anybody can come to the Father. And the ones that come to me are the ones that are sure. The ones coming to him, that's what makes it sure. It's the coming to him that means double negation, can't lose any. He won't cast anybody away. And he will raise those who? The ones that come to him. And the only way you can come to him is through being drawn by the doings of the Father, which is his teaching, his message. So in other words, I think the chain isn't quite as in the same way necessary. It's not saying the Father meticulously controls that you come or not. And then you'll see that by the ones that are coming to me. Oh, you will see why they're coming and how they're coming. But it's not because God necessarily made them come. It's the way that's sure. It's the way and the means that is sure. And this is where the once saved, always saved non-Calvinists, they deny. So the only way you can make it that once saved, always saved is true, and that you're smothered in Abraham's sauce like the Pharisees thought they were, is that is if you read it Calvinistically. But I really don't think you have to read it Calvinistically. And why do I say that? Because yes, John 6 comes before John 12. And if you read it Calvinistically, you're going to read John 12 that way. But if you read it the way I'm saying, no, it's going to be by the drawing of the Son lifted up. That will be the ultimate means that draws people to God through Christ. But that hasn't come yet. But when it does, that will be another step in the chain that brings them. So the reason you can say it's only talking about like the disciples or people, that it's different than it is now, you could argue it because the cross hasn't even happened yet. It's the seeing of who God is through the cross that does change the story as far as what draws people. Because it's just Jesus teaching. There's no death of the Messiah yet when he's praying that prayer. So the ones coming to him are not coming through his death. They're only coming to him through his teaching in the context of the first century under the old covenant. And so I think you have to take into account that statement, and then it tells you because by the way of his death. Let's look at that actually. You know that. Let's see, I have it right here. Notice this in John 12. It's interesting, and it's not really clear what to do with it at first. John 12. So think about what I just said about the difference between Jesus' prayer or Jesus talking about the way of, or I'm sorry, not his prayer necessarily, but, or wait, I can't remember now. Anyways, the way he's talking about the means or the method or whatever of how they come to him at that time. But in John 12, and notice that the hour is coming, the Son of Man should be glorified. Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Notice he's making that analogy about his impending death. And by his death, even more fruit will come by means of a death. Like a seed dies, falls to the ground, it dies, and it's alone. But if it dies, that is, it brings forth much fruit. He's talking about like his fall and death, and then that'll bring more fruit. So right there, the context is suggesting that something major is going to happen by means of his death and what that does to draw people. So, and then so did I pass it? Did I not change let's see. Where is it? Okay. And if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. Then by saying this, he said, signifying what death he should die. So when you look at that in this context, except a corn of wheat fall to the ground and die, it abideth alone, but if it dies. So to me, that's suggesting he's saying by his death will actually do a thing that affects the drawing of people. Seeing God's character, that God was willing to become a man and die for his friends while they were yet sinners. That has power in it, in that message. And so I feel like to say, Well, yeah, but the only ones that are going to be affected by that is who God, chooses to be able to or not. I just, no, it's the means of Jesus. That's what he's saying. He's saying he's giving all the credit to the Father because he's showing man how to depend on God. So, like, we depend on him, looking to him. Yes, but it's not like he's saying, I mean, that just takes the reality out of it. No one can be affected by the message unless the God predetermined it beforehand. And that's what he's saying. No, he's saying, I'm the way, and I'm the only way to the Father. That's what he's saying. He's saying, I was sent by God, and no one comes to the Father except by me. So when he's talking about no one can come unless the Father draws them, he's saying the Father sent me, and I'm the means of drawing. And even more so when they see the Son of Man lifted up on the cross. Will it be more clear that I am the means by which the Father was sent into the world to draw men? It's through me. That's what he's saying. It's not so mechanical. That's what I would say. So no, it doesn't teach us once saved, always saved. If Calvinists are right, that's the way could be true. I don't read it that way. So if you don't accept Calvinism, you shouldn't accept once saved, always saved, in my opinion. And why do I say that? Well, because like John 6 or John 12 doesn't abrogate John 6, I would say, and exactly, Revelation doesn't, John 12 doesn't, or you can't, Jesus said this later, okay, after that. Jesus would need to warn the ones that are in him to hold fast. If the ones that are in him can't lose their salvation, he would just tell them they can't lose their life. But he's talking to the church. The same that overcomes shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot his name out of the book of life. I've heard people tell me, yeah, in that sentence, the statement, I will not blot out names of the book of life is in there. Therefore, he won't blot people's names out of the book of life. Now, see, if you have to argue like that, you're an ideologue. Okay? He that overcomes, the same shall be clothed in white, and semicolon, I will not blot his name out of the book of life. You know what that means? It means you have to overcome, or your name can be blotted out of the book of life. You don't, it's like, it's why I joke around. No man can take you out of the Father's hand. Yeah, no one can rob you unless you let them. He will confess his name before the angel. You have to be faithful. And the only way to be faithful is to depend on God. And so it is God doing it. And if you try to do it on your own, you can't do it. And if you're coming to him and being strengthened by him, because man can do nothing, but with God, all things are possible. No man can rob you of it if you are faithful. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia, write these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David, he that openeth, no man can shutteth, and shutteth, no man openeth. Yes, instead of applying that to your justification, try applying that to, say, like the Sabbath and its holiness. I neither works of before, notice this. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, you held fast, you clung to the cross, you clung to me, you depended on me, not yourself. Since you depend on me, that which isn't a proposition, it's a decision that you make every day. I also will keep you from the hour of temptation. It doesn't say I will keep you from the hour of temptation, and that will make you keep my word. No, because you have stayed loyal to me, I will keep you from the hour of temptation, which will come upon the world, and try them that dwell upon the earth. Now notice this. Behold, I'm coming quickly. I could come at any moment. Don't get weary and start drinking with the drunkards, because that day would come upon you. It's a call to hold fast, to be faithful. That's what the call is, which isn't a doctrine. It's a decision you make. You do things because of that, and you don't do things because of that. Hold fast what you have, that no man take thy crown. And guess what? Everybody who's saved gets a crown. It's not something you get because you did good works. The crown is what you get when you let into the kingdom. If you're faithful and you keep believing unto the end, you're eternally secure. You have to believe, because the eternal security is in Christ. Christ says that no man take the crown. That means, see, you have to let them take your crown. They can't take it from you if you're faithful. Because otherwise, how could he make this statement? No man can pluck you from the Father's hand. Yeah, that's why people say, yeah, but you can leave. Yes, you can allow them to take your crown. But if you're faithful, no man can take. This way is sure. This way is sure. That in the context of the new covenant, and the after this new covenant has been, that Jesus is the Messiah, the promised Messiah. The text is trying to argue for that. This way is sure. This way is sure. Don't get it twisted. It's not about whether or not you can lose your salvation. They're arguing that Jesus is the Messiah, and this way is God's way, and it's the only way that God has promised and implemented. And that way is sure, and it's evidenced by the ministry, life, death, resurrection of Christ. Why would he say no? He warned you that no man take your crown. They can't take your crown because you're saved, don't you know? No. Don't let them. How do you not let them? You hold fast to what you have and remember that he's coming quickly. That is, lest that day take you like a thief in the night, dear Christian. He's speaking to believers when he says that over and over and over during his ministry, which has universal application. So look, if you want once saved, always saved, you have to be a Calvinist. But even if you're a Calvinist, you still have to hold the faith. You still have to hold on to the faith. That's still a decision you make in time. So hold fast, lest that day take you like a thief in the night.